So let's take some time and look at the mechanics, okay, of the Sumi Gaeshi. Again, the grips are going to vary because there's a couple different, there's a multitude of different grip options, okay, that are going to be useful. But the mechanics are more so, they're pretty similar across the different grips, okay? They're not going to vary too much, okay? But in order for us to achieve, again, that hip and head height, okay, hips coming higher than the head, training partner coming towards us, getting those hips high, and again, that directionality that we talked about. Now that we understand what the goals are, we can go in and we can start looking at the actual mechanics in order to achieve those things, okay? So I'll just take it off generic grips, and this is pretty simple, okay? We're going to start off, okay, in a butterfly, okay, like this, okay? So we're not going to be seated on, okay, our two butt cheeks here. We're going to be, okay, off to a side, okay, off to one hip, where one of my knees points horizontally, okay, and the other one is pointed up. When we go in and we start making our grips, okay, and I start pulling my training partner in, okay, I understand that the direction, okay, is rear corner, okay? So in order for my training partner to stop me from sweeping him to the rear corner, he needs to be able to post, okay, his hand on the floor, okay? And in the vast majority of cases, if I do everything perfectly and I block my training partner's arm, you will be able to get your training partner down by just blocking, okay, this arm, preventing him from posting that hand, okay? There are going to be some cases where even when you do that against a very talented, tough opponent, they're basing out with the legs, things like that. We have a hard time taking them over, in which case we have follow-up attacks, okay? So right now we're just looking at basic application of a variety of different sweeping grip options for the Sumi Gaeshi, okay? Right now we're just looking at generic grips, then we'll look at specific grips, but I want you guys to understand the mechanics so that we can take them in the direction we want and so that we can get the hips higher than the head, okay, and get them coming forward so we can get our reversal. So we start off in this staggered butterfly position. Foot's on the inside, the other foot's tucked in towards us. We've blocked our training partner's forearm, okay? We want to prevent him from posting the hand or the elbow, okay, down on the floor, because that will stop us. We need to start with an assertive pull, okay? So there needs to be an assertive pull that does one of two things. It gets my training partner's head coming forward, but it also scoots me underneath my training partner. So as he makes a strong, resistant body, what I want to do is I want to give an assertive pull that gets him coming forward, but it also gets me underneath him, okay? So we get that kind of two directions. I'm scooting under him as I pull my training partner in towards us. As I do those two things, again, the pull brings him off his heels as I scoot underneath and I get my hips underneath him. We need to focus on a couple of things. Remember, it's a pulling move. Okay, so the direction of the pull is rear corner, but it's a pull move, and that does not just mean pull with the hands. My hands are, my right hand in particular, okay, is pulling my training partner's head and shoulders forward, taking his hips off of his heels. My left hand in this case is stopping my training partner from basing the hand out. As I scoot my hips in, my legs are also working, and not in the way that most people think. Most people think that the legs are a lifting mechanism, but they're not a lifting mechanism. They're a pulling mechanism. They support my training partner's weight, but they are pulling. They are not lifting, okay? So what do I mean by that? When I come in and I start pulling my training partner on me, I give a good assertive pull that gets his weight onto me. So my hips are coming underneath him as I pull my training partner towards us. Right as I start getting his hips off of his heels, we start pulling with our knees. So my knee has to pull towards my chest and get my training partner coming this way. Okay, you're going to have to base out with your leg. So from here, as I pull him, we're going to get this kind of thing happening. Now, the big mistake people make here, there's a couple, but in particular with the hooking leg. This is where sometimes the word hook sweep, okay, or butterfly sweep can kind of confuse people because they think that from here I have to lift my partner. This extension, not only is it not efficient, okay, mechanically, because I'm basically doing a leg extension with 175 pounds, okay, on top of my quad.
Okay, so, and not only am I doing that, but I'm doing it in a position where it's kind of inefficient. It's not like I'm doing it seated like I would at the gym, where I'm sitting in a chair and I'm lifting this way. I'm also trying to lift my training partner laterally. So it's a lot of load on not only my quad to just extend and try to launch a resisting opponent out in a direction where he has a base of support, the leg, but also the outside of my hip is much weaker when it's pointed in this position. So the actual act of trying to extend puts me in an unfavorable position where if I fail, okay, and if you do it incorrectly, you end up getting squashed with your two knees together. So if you look at me do it incorrectly first, when I lift my partner, I'm doing everything right so far, and then when I start getting him up, I extend. Now all of a sudden from here, I'm in a bad position. If we contrast that to focusing on a pull, your leg never gets overextended and your knee never gets crushed, because I focus on keeping the outside of my knee, or rather the inside of my knee, on the outside of my training partner's rib cage. So if we turn it, my knee should always keep contact with the outside of the rib cage. And then now from here, pay attention to my right knee. Watch as my right knee pulls to my chest, and I focus on taking him over to the rear corner. So as I pull, everything is rounded. So I get a rocking chair type effect when I pull my partner. Very important. I don't want to disconnect and then attempt to pull, because when he makes himself heavy, it's very hard for me to pull him from here. So I need to pull him with me like this. And again, we talked about that leg extension. I'm not extending with the leg. I'm taking him to the rear corner, so I need to pull. My knee will stay outside of his rib cage, and I'll pull my knee to my chest as I look in the direction that I want to take my partner. So as I pull my partner here, now I look in that direction. My knee always stays outside. I don't extend, but rather I pull my knee to my chest. So when he goes to squash my knees together from here, you can bear the weight much more easily. Now from here, the bottom foot also has an action. The action, however, okay, is not pulling, okay? Instead, it is driving off the mat and hopping towards my partner's opposite foot, okay, the foot that he's basing out on. And if you can do all those things, you're gonna have a successful reversal, okay, to the corner. So if I do it solo, I'm rounded so that when I fall, I don't fall flat back. When I'm pulling my partner, I'm pulling to the direction of the corner. So I'm pulling at an angle where I'm going almost all the way down to my delt when I fall through. There's a pull of the hands, but the hands are both pulling and blocking his base of support. And most importantly, when I commit down to the floor, I'm not trying to kick him out and away, but instead I'm looking to pull, drive with the bottom leg, and pull with the top leg, and the knee stays on the outside of the ribs. I look in the direction I want him to land, and we hop towards the basing leg so that I can get my partner over to that corner. Okay, I want to hop towards the legs that he has, to the leg that he's basing out on, so that I can break that base and take him over. So just from a standard, okay, any generic grip here, the mechanics are all going to be very, very similar. The head is forward. There's upper body connection. When I go to make that initial pulling movement, there's no disconnect and straightening of the back. It's all going to be one motion regardless of the grip, but he's coming with me when I pull. I'm not disconnecting and then pulling. So as I'm rounded, concave, we're in this staggered butterfly. Remember, the action of the bottom leg is going to be to push and then hop, getting my hips off the floor. The action of the top leg, the hooking leg, is going to be to pull and bear my training partner's weight. We take him to the rear corner, so I block the hand that he would want to post with. He can post with the head, but we'll be able to deal with that. What we can't deal with is the hand. My knee always stays on the outside of the rib cage, and I focus on the pulling of the knee to the chest with that top leg. So as I give that pull, that gets my training partner's weight coming forward and off the heels, and I scoot my hips underneath my partner. From there, I just need that little bit of a lift of his butt off of his heels to get him going. He's going to base on the head, but I'm not worried about that. I'm not extending the leg. Watch as I pull the leg. I pull my top leg. And now from here, he can't base out with the hand, he can base out with the head. That's not a huge deal because we just continue that motion to hop him through. And then from here, we end up with our hips above his and in top position. Now, I did that stopping, okay, in between, so I could show you again the mechanics. When we do it in one go, it's actually a whole lot smoother. It's a lot easier for you to come off of your hips and drive off that bottom leg. So as I pull my partner, just do it basing out with your leg. So we come through, pull, he bases out with the leg, and you can see that it's much easier for you to come up when you don't stop in between. Stopping in between to explain those small details, but in one fluid motion, if you get the mechanics right, you get that corner throw, you get the hips higher than the head, and you get a very clean reversal, get into top position with that Sumi